Company, David, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, let's go for it. So I'm going to try to be brief, but I'm going to try to explain you and demystify a bit what it takes to go to production with Maisa. But with what Maisa is very simple to understand. We take manual processes. Every time that you want to buy a car, it takes 2 to 3 days for the bank to tell you if they approve it or not. The reality is that behind of it, there are humans doing tasks. And why I can tell you this is because we did something that might not sound common. That is that last year we started working with Santander as a design partner after 1 year of working on technology. And we did not take more clients at that scale, just to understand what it would take us to take 100 digital workers to production. And now that we have done it, and it's been very painful, it's when I'm going to tell you what it takes and how we are replicating this already with other, not only banks, but industries like insurance and also energy. I'm David, the CEO and co-founder, and the start of, the main claim that I want to say is that, and something that we have mentioned a lot of times today, is that agentic AI is not enterprise ready, but I don't think that, I'm going to break a bit the narrative. I don't think that it has to do with hallucinations. And I don't think that it has to do with the problems that have been mentioned today. Because the reality is that, first of all, it's not trustworthy, but what you will learn once you get to production is that you cannot, is that there is a foundational first principle that is being wrongly applied with AI. Everyone in the market is using AI as ground truth of the answer, of the execution. Everyone sends prompts, gives them tools, and expects them to do the right thing and consider their reasoning as the ground truth of the process, of the execution. Because of that, you cannot verify it because it's unfaithful. And there are papers like one that is called Chain of Thought, It's Not Explainability, that prove it. Like, this is an empirical proof. You can, and this is something that everyone in the market is doing. That's why they are black boxes, why they hallucinate. It's because they are used as the ground truth of the answer. And that makes them not trustworthy because they are probabilistic. So we took 2 years ago one step back and decided to put ourselves into the future. How was going AI to look like 5 years from now? It's going to go at 500,000 tokens per second, very fast. That means 1 Quixote every second. That means 500,000 lines of code per second. How are you going to verify if the process is correct if it's probabilistic and based on natural language with tools? You can't. So we thought about using AI as a system that, instead of telling us what is the process that creates the answer, so makes the chain of thought, it tells us in runtime the code that it needs to execute, and not full scripts, very small, like if it was an operative system. Turns out that it works, and it helps you with the next problem of why agentic AI is not enterprise ready, which is the lack of integrations and GRCC. And everyone that works in regulated industries knows this. It's not just about making them to connect with S3. It's be compliant with the policies, be compliant with the safeguards, be compliant with the nexus that sometimes brings latency. So you need a computer and an environment that can manage that. And this is not happening today with an LLM with tools. And last but not least, no one has prepackaged solutions. Everything is, let's start from scratch and build an amazing agent, but no one can replicate that into other solutions, and that makes adoption times very, very long. And this is the reality then. It's very easy, and your team can call a GPT, can build an agentic solution, can build an agentic workflow, but then you face the reality. You want to execute a 25 steps trade finance verification that has 21 document types, 9 system integrations, connection to Excel, exception handling. It must have a complete audit trail, no chain of thought, that can be reconstructed and tell me exactly how the decision was made, no hallucinations, and without human oversight. In production, at scale, and fully compliant. And this is what we do, what we have solved. That's simple. But this is what everyone is not telling you. And the solution is very simple. It's called Maisa Studio. It's a platform built with a very different approach of understanding AI. Although that we are speaking about automation, we move away from that world of boxes, of arrows, of workflows, because that world creates constraints. Go to anyone in any job and ask them how do they automate their work, and they don't have an idea because they don't think on boxes with arrows. So what we have been able to achieve with this solution is that it's fully traceable and explainable, and that means that everything that gets executed, we call it chain of work, it's fully auditable and also delivers alerts because it's not based on probabilistic chain of thought, it's based on code. It's fully reliable and accurate because it's based on code, it doesn't have hallucinations because again, the model is not the ground truth of the answer, and it can scale much cheaper and faster than using agentic AI, as the market is doing. Because we don't have boxes and arrows, but we still leverage LLMs, we can create and store and are indeed leveraging the trivial knowledge, the know-how that you lose every time that an employee leaves the company. It gets saved and can be reused. It's robust and has self-healing capabilities because the system is built in runtime every time that an execution comes. And last but not least, it's extremely fast to deploy and to onboard a new worker. So how could we do this? So first of all, it brings this hallucination resistance that this should be moving, but it looks like a PDF. So the core components that we compound from are the hallucination resistance and self-healing capabilities, which is that being able to, you expect one zip file and suddenly it comes and it has on the same file 2 PDFs instead of 1. That's when RPA used to break. That's when RPA 2.0, ANETs and all of those break. And that's when our system can manage it and create just a solution in runtime for that. The second thing is if you expect process engineers to leverage this, it's not going to scale fast enough because they have no idea about how to do tax reconciliation, they have no idea about how to do trade finance and the business that really provides the ROI. So you need to enable the business users and they don't know how to do prompts. So what can you do? We enable them with our platform to start with natural language and we use the platform in an inverse way. The agent will ask them questions about the process and the process will be converted into instructions and know how to follow. And last but not least, every step that it's made is code, literally, from the definition to the execution. So it's fully traceable and auditable and brings one core component. That is that we don't give to our clients just one result as an output. We give them one IP, which is the code of every single transaction that has been made as a result. And if they have 10,000 of that, they have one model. So they don't need anymore to rely on the big models. And this is IP that they get and that they leverage. And what happens next? And I will finish very soon. This is what you start to need, and this is what we have had to implement to go to production, which is a line of scale-ups. Very important. AWS is down, what do? Then we don't work. Suddenly our Nexus has some latencies. How do we keep the sandbox alive? We have 3,000 calls in a second. How do we manage the queue and put the machines on? On security, well, that's a topic for an hour. Like you have to take care of GRCC, of permissions, of who can view the data, how all of that layer comes baked in. And then the second one that we have learned only when we were in production with multiple workers, which is what is the performance? Literally, like how is this behaving? Is it faster than human or less? Is it having errors or not? We call that functionality the checker. We remove the human from the loop because we have code, so we can evaluate autonomously the performance and only include the human in the loop when it happens. You need to have observability, fraud detection mitigation. All of this has been to be created to run production in our clients and also comes baked in. This is areas where we are having an impact and where the bank is right now scaling. And right now we are also starting to scale in insurance and energy. Just to show you one example, one use case, trade finance, and I finish. Trade finance is an extremely complex use case. We did this with a Swiss bank. It's extremely complex because more than 300 people on an organization has to do this. And there are a lot of unstructured documents, but not also documentation. You also have laws and regulations that change every day. Trump wakes up one Monday and tells you, I put these tariffs. Goes on the Tuesday, I put these other tariffs. And it literally impacts this. So it needs to be alive. It's very high time sensitive. So this is, and I will finish, this is how you imagine automations. This is usually what an automation is. Not anymore. None of our clients have ever had to do a BPM anymore. This is a thing of the past. This is what it took to try to do it with RPA. And just natural language is what it took to do it with Maisa, to deliver these results. The challenge I explained to you, but we were able to reduce the processing time on 80%, increase the processing capacity on 6x, and putting the 90% the automation rate on a 93%. So that's it. This is what we do, and thanks for your time.
Well, thank you, Yannick, for inviting me. I'll be quick. Just in a few words, what we do at Greenly, we are essentially a carbon accounting platform supporting around 3,000 companies today. So we're in logo counts, we're the biggest carbon accounting platform in the world. We have about 400 million tons of CO2 under management. It's about half of a country like France. And so in a sense, what's unique about us is the ability to scale this topic massively. We started this company 6 years ago when it was 100% consulting. And we've been developing all the features to replace consultants by a platform which any company, even a relatively small one, can start using to track its footprint like it tracks its financials. So with this simple idea, we're just working on making this super easy, super cost effective, and precise. And of course, that's the hard part, and that's where AI helps a little. So I'll just give you a brief overview. And here we go. So quick reminder, why do companies do this? As you, I'm sure, are aware of, it's mostly because of regulations first, but then what happens is those obligations trickle down to smaller companies through the supply chain. So essentially, procurement departments want to track their carbon footprint, they want to track a number of things, and what they realize very quickly is they have to measure their so-called scope 3. Does everybody knows what scope 3 is? Is there somebody who doesn't know what scope 3 is? Usually no one. Super quickly, scope 3 is, scope 1 and 2 is your electricity and fuel consumption. And scope 3 is everything you buy from other people. So the emissions are with your airline providers, your metal manufacturers, and so on. So you have to make assumptions about this. And it's tough because there are industry averages, so you need to get good data from your supply chain. And it creates a trickle-down effect, which translates those legislations essentially into a right to play. If you're going to work for, L'Oréal or any big manufacturing company, right? Veolia, usually in B2B, you have to provide some information, and so it creates a B2B market. And some of you might think there is an ESG backlash. So we've grown by 50% last year. We don't know what you're talking about. And it's because, in fact, despite all the sound and fury, US states are pushing for disclosure requirements. The UK is increasing pressure to disclose more, and so on and so forth. So it's all a myth. Now, what happens is when you go into a world where everybody needs to do this is you essentially have to replace spreadsheets by a platform because spreadsheets are a big headache. They're for experts and they don't scale. And so this is what we do. Now, I'll get to the AI part, but when it comes to carbon accounting, it's a little more subtle than just sharing the organizational footprint, right? That's the first part. But very quickly, of course, people want to have something actionable to reduce, so you need to go into enough data granularity to tell people what they should be doing, which supplier to work with, what to buy. If you're doing spare parts for the automobile industry, you have to know which steel supplier you're buying from. So you go from doing the organizational report to getting the product carbon footprint. And so now we're walking into a world where big companies are asking most of their big suppliers to not just disclose their organizational footprint, but the footprint of the object, the service that they're buying. So for the insurance companies that we work with, we do a litigation carbon calculator, you know, for when something breaks down. Or we work with Fnac Darty. They're using us to reach out to all of their southeastern suppliers to know what the carbon footprint of the fridge or the dishwasher is, and so on. So there's this trickle-down effect, not just to the supply chain, but for extra data granularity. So it's what we call LCA calculators, so life cycle assessment. And of course, all this data needs to talk to each other because you're in an industry where there are lots of silos. There are silos within corporations. The ESG team does not speak to the purchasing team, and yet the purchasing team gets the data from the suppliers. And there are, of course, silos across suppliers because you're buying a dishwasher from this guy and from this guy, and they're both computing the footprint of the dishwasher in a different way. So you essentially need someone to standardize and normalize this. So us. Basically, it also means that when you start doing it for a lot of companies in one vertical, you become de facto the standard maker. So when we work for Fnac Darty on normalizing life cycle assessments for dishwashers, we are the norm maker of how to compute dishwasher. And when we do it for Amazon, even more so. So it's a business with a lot of network effects. And that's what we've been doing. We've been deploying by specific verticals. The services industry, of course, I mean, it's more a distribution play. They are partners. They push us to their own customers. The tech companies use us a lot for computing the carbon footprint of their cloud, the single biggest element. The retail, as I was saying, is a great distributor to the suppliers. And of course, the big manufacturing companies are typically those under extra pressure. So the automobile industry, the construction industry, because they themselves have stricter decarbonization targets. So if I take a customer like Bosch, Bosch is a big supplier to the automobile industry. They use us to push, to compute their footprint, but also to push to some of their key suppliers calculators to calculate how the spare parts footprint is, and it normalizes the point across the industry. It's an industrialization play, so you need everybody to do the same. And right now, we're the biggest company in this in Europe. We're near 20 million. We're above $20 million AR. Second biggest is half our size. And we're talking consolidation, so think Rockefeller, you know, you can own all the refineries, except here it's for decarbonization. And so how does it work? I mean, I won't go into the full detail, but you essentially have to go into an accumulation of detail. There are a lot of formats in which you need to export this data. A lot of reporting. People don't just buy the data, they buy the good-looking reports, right? Because you need your customers to be heroes, right? The ESG person is typically has to make his case in front of the CEO who thinks it's a cost. And the better looking the information, the more ROI you can demonstrate, because actually a lot of these reports end up being used by the sales team to win RFPs. And so it's important to get your customers promoted, and so to make the export formats look good. Now, I think this is a talk about AI. So where is the AI in this? I don't want to bore you with too much details, but essentially, why was this a consulting business? It's because it's very data-intensive business with many, many different formats of data. So energy data, of course, for scope 2 is easy, kilowatt hours, right? But even that can be hard because you need to sometimes upload a ton of PDFs from utility bills, so you need to read this fast. Scope 1 data, fuel data is easy. It's just, liters of gas or fuel or something. But scope 3 data is hard. You have freight data, so you need to have 100,000 lines of transportation with different type of cars or freights or trucks from one place to another, so it's a lot of computation. Purchase of goods and materials is hard. Every product in the world needs to be identified and matched to the conversion. So it's a lot of data, essentially. And so we've been greatly helped by the different developments in AI here recently, because the first thing is you need people to give you their messy files and immediately translate them into clean, structured data. So when you buy consulting, you think you're buying smart work, but sometimes it's grunt, VLOOKUP work of just juniors, doing the boring stuff. So this is what AI does actually quite well. And of course, you still need a human to check. You need to convert into carbon. You also pay consultants to check that the data is valid. But in fact, when you've done 3,000 carbon accounting reports, you know where all the mistakes can be because you've made all those mistakes. And so you can embed this into your system. And essentially, that's what people are buying, is the assurance that there are very few mistakes. And so that's key to actually scaling. And then, of course, you need to export the data into a format that's appealing. And to give you an example, we do this on carbon, but we do this on things like what's called EROs. So it's a mapping of risks in CSRD. So it's a bit beyond carbon. It's very written reports. Typically, the kind of stuff you pay agencies a lot to do. The reality is you can upload 1,000 reports that have been written by others and essentially produce immediately a written report on these things, and the person responsible just needs to check the data or the information, so everything's faster. And of course, it's curated based on what we do. So that's how you decrease price and you scale, essentially. So that's what we do. Now, this is more complex, but it's the same thing. It's all the natures of data and how we export those deliverables. Same, how we clean data, how we push this to product level data. Again, it's the same thing. So you upload a bill of material, you put it into your format, and you immediately translate this. So you're talking what we call life cycle assessment, so product carbon footprints at scale, and then you produce the report. So this is, I don't know if you've heard about a regulation called CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So if you remember, it's essentially a carbon tax for things imported into the EU that would have been taxed had they been produced in the EU. And it's restricted to 6 products because the EU Commission thought it was too hard to compute carbon footprint for more products. So what we're saying is we're doing it for all the products at Fnac Darty, so tax everybody. And of course, you're in a year of presidential campaign starting in France. They love to hear this. And we are a perfect example of something that lifts a technical obstacle. So this is the world we're entering. So you build the reports. It goes a little bit beyond, because once you analyze supply chain, you can actually analyze a lot of what the stuff that you're buying needs to comply with. So it's the EU deforestation regulation, the packaging stuff, the PFAS, the REACH, etc. And here we are. We're 3 co-founders, 4 with the late co-founder, and we are happy to engage with anyone in the audience to make this more of a reality. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now I'd like to invite Hakim, who is going to present Qevlar AI.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. So this is my privilege to introduce you to what we do at Qevlar today. I will try to make this presentation as practical as I can. And I want to be sure that you understand, all of you, what needs to be done to deploy AI within one of the most, let's say, demanding organizations, which are security operations. So as we've discussed today, we all know that if we want to deploy AI at scale, we just need to ensure that first, every evidence and conclusion can be backed by evidence, by auditability. I think it's important. The second thing that is also very, very important, and we're going to demonstrate it today, is the fact that we need to be able to follow the reasoning. We need to ensure that we have a clear visibility on what's happened. And the latest one, which is the one that we don't speak a lot about it, but it's an AI that is going to clearly signal unknowns and uncertainties. So this is what we do at Qevlar AI. We have built a SOC AI agentic platform that works and has been designed to work for cybersecurity environment that we know is one of the most demanding ones. So for the problem, so let's say alerts has exploded, and SOC analysts or analysts, which are the one who is dealing with these alerts, unfortunately hasn't. So we see that there is a big merge of number of alerts, and how the organization has reacted today, they have built some automation, what we call SOAR, and we know that by design, those automation are static. And we know also that alerts and attackers, they are not static at all. So what they want from people. So investigation needs to get context because I am different from you. I'm not using the same tools. So it needs to bring the impact of the context. The second thing is it involves a lot of tools. We are not using the same tools and it makes things very complicated. And last, and I think it's more important, it needs human view on this. So if you want to have a layer of complexity, we have the rise of GenAI today. So a lot of noise coming from a lot of alerts at a price that, to be honest, make for the new attackers a lot of creativity and a lot of volume. So this is where today the issue doesn't come from tools. It comes from a reality, which is that we cannot scale the SOC with human. It's just impossible. So we need to find a new way to make it happen. And this is what we do at Qevlar. In front of speed machine, we put Qevlar that is going to do the same. So let's deep dive maybe into what we do. So here, this is a typical distribution for a real life SOC. This is very important. What we should understand here all is that, let's say we have 3,000 alerts that come into the SOC. And today we have some static, let's say, rules that are going to filter those number of alerts. And in this case, you see that only the third are going to be investigated by a human. All the rest is, let's say, we do it if we can, if we have the time. So if I were an attacker, I will honestly focus on the ones that are low and informational because I know that no one is going to investigate it. So in this case of the third of alert, what do you see? Is that only 1,000 has been reviewed manually, and within those 1,000 alerts, you have 80% of them, they are false alerts. So which means SOC are dedicating people to work on what we call false positive. And for the rest, so 2,000 alerts, no human have reviewed it. So if we put Qevlar into the picture, so Qevlar is going to investigate 100% of the alert like a human would have done. And I think it's super important. So then we will position the focus of the analyst where it's really important. So in this case, for instance, this is a real life alert distribution. So what I'm showing here is a real customers. Let's say 84% of the alerts has been qualified as benign, which means they can be auto-closed. So they don't need human, attention anymore. But for the rest, and I think it's super important, so for the malicious one, which means the one that there is a real threat, Qevlar has realized a deep investigation. So in this case, the analyst is going to spend like 2 minutes before acting. So this is what we've said. So today, analysts are focusing their time on low task value, a lot of investigation, and not, focusing their time on where it's super important. So in this case, what we want with Qevlar is to ensure that we're going to transform this rationale and ensure that the focus of analysts is going to be focused on what is super important right now, detection and remediation. So how do we do it? And I think it's important in this case. So by design, Qevlar has to connect to the existing tools. So we don't want to rip and replace. We connect via API, and then we ensure that we don't ask to our customers to make any changes. I think it's the first thing that is very important. So under the hood, Qevlar is using a graph AI who is going to collect alerts, enrich the alerts, the entities, the activities, and into, let's say, a graph unified orchestration layer. And in this case, by design, what we have built for Qevlar, and I think it's design principles, is that Qevlar is easy to deploy. And I think it's something very important. We don't ask to our customers to do heavy work. So I'm going to show you some real-life example, but in minutes, you can deploy Qevlar. It doesn't need any training. So you connect Qevlar, you receive an alert. 3 minutes after, you have a report of investigation. And the second thing is that Qevlar has been built to be headless to operate, which means you can use Qevlar within your own, let's say, tools. We don't want to create a new console, and you don't want to force customers to change what they have today. So Qevlar is going to perform deep enrichment, deep investigation, and provide remediation step. And as you can see, it will happen in like 3 minutes on average, and then we are going to break the noise. Let me show you an example, because it's exactly what we said. So whatever the kind of alert that Qevlar is going to receive, Qevlar is going to answer. You will have the answer to 3 questions. What happened? Was there a user engagement? And what is the impact? So everything is visible, and in 1 or 2 minutes, the SOC analyst is capable to take a decision. But to go deeper into the visibility, we have some subset of agent that is going to do more than automation. In this case, we have a visual module who is going to open, inspect visually, and finally do like what a human would have done. And if we deep dive more when it comes to, as I said, as my introduction, I said during my introduction that what we want is to ensure that we see the rationale and that we see what the AI is doing. In this case, you see every step that are auditable. So I think it's super important when it's in AI, it's not a black box, especially within cybersecurity, and you see exactly the kind of component that has been investigated, the tool that has been used, the data that has been queried. So for SOC organization, I can tell you this is years of work. And for legacy system, this is impossible to bring such a, let's say, a deep dive and a transparency that can finally will lead to automation at scale. Everything that you see here is performed in less than 2 minutes, which means we receive the alerts, and then you have the investigation that you see here. Most importantly, I think, it's real-life example, and I think this is why we are here. We want to demonstrate that we can deploy AI at scale, and you see some of the largest organizations here. For instance, let's take the example of Mercedes-Benz. All those customers has been signed, let's say signed, if we want to be direct, in a couple of weeks. And we are talking about very big organizations. The reason why is that we didn't ask them to change their current tools or way of operating. So this is really fast implementation. If we take the example of Mercedes, so they have a SOCs, 3 SOCs actually, and they do what we call follow the sun 24/7. And they have a lot of people that when you sleep, they wake, etc., etc. So it's very complicated to manage. So they have positioned Qevlar, and then Qevlar is doing the heavy work. So it gives more optionality to the cyber organization of Mercedes. And for Sodexo, for instance, this is a 500,000 organization relying today on Qevlar. As you can see, they just cut by 90% the workload of their analysts in a record amount of time. So this is very, very important. And the latest one, so Qevlar today is used by thousands of customers, which is Orange Cyber Defense. So they deploy in less than 3 months Qevlar within all their customer base. And their customer base, we have big banks, we have big insurances, we have big manufacturers. So the value is here. I think it's something very important. And everything that we see, it's now AI, it's going to become a reality. And what we think at Qevlar is that if we manage to make it happen in such complex environment, which is cybersecurity, by following the key principles that we've defined, everyone is capable to do it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So we are Asenion, striving for making good AI universal. We pioneered this market since 2016. We have an end-to-end governance platform taking you all the way to audit readiness. I'm Anna Fellander, co-founder. I'm heading the Asenion Europe office in Stockholm. Fionn Madame is co-founder and chief product officer. So the problem we are solving is that there's a fatal misalignment between how engineers optimize AI and what matters to us humans as we bring it to our lives. The timing is now. We're at an inflection point where the promises of massive transformation from AI meets the reality that AI has not been built safe and reliable, and that meets the requirements of governments, organizations, and regulators, and society at large. So our solution, we've spent years bridging the gap between tech and compliance teams. We have a road-tested end-to-end governance platform, including policy controls and AI testing. The AI testing, there's a lot of AI testing out there for bias hallucinations, but we have closely worked with auditors and regulators to find the benchmark that will make you audit ready. So we also have risk intelligence, providing you deep risk insights and recommendations to the whole organization that will help you mitigate ethical, legal, and safety risks, and also keeping you audit ready. That's why I want to underline here during my presentation, audit readiness. So what's at stake? It's not only the auditors, right? We are striving for privacy, fairness, inclusion, autonomy, information security. All of them are being violated as we speak. And also I can tell you, it's not surprising that European firms are a bit risk-averse when there's no guardrails. So it is clear that AI governance is the make or break for successful, trustworthy AI implementation. On one hand, we see that organizations struggle with costly, time-consuming, and unreliable tooling for these AI governance goals in silos of an organization, not aligned. And I mean, underlying the MIT study saying 95% of Gen AI pilots not meeting return on investment. Now, there's an adoption gap that clearly cannot be met with more technology, right? We have to govern and we have to trust AI. And we know that 2 out of 5 have experienced security and fairness and privacy lapse. Those are incidents that we know, but we know that we are constantly manipulated. On the other hand, if you get this right, there is a lot of value. 100% of clarity you get with Asenion about the guardrails on how to scale trusted and legal AI. We make it 45% faster for you to implement AI. The AI Act. It is happening. There's no turning back. Actually, AI Act is a means for you to do responsible AI because it forces organizations to risk assess based on end users' severity, probability of harm. So the sanctions are up for August 2027. We get the SEN standards late this year. 7% of global revenue is at stake. With Asenion, you get stakeholder trust, and that's most important of all. We give you sustainable, trustworthy business models. So we take you through our intuitive user journey in 4 steps. In every step, we have unique products. Number 1, you select the policy, the standard, with Asenion policy packs. Number 2, you screen with our Asenion AI testing suite. Number 3, you address the gaps from compliance, from business, and from tech with our 360 risk intelligence. And then you report to notifying bodies, to standardization and regulations agencies. So the Asenion policy packs, this is where we automate compliance. We have our live policy controls and monitoring tools, and we have over 50 policy packs and a regulator tracker where you can be up to date what regulations are coming into your region or where your customers are. So we say that we are your reliable fast track for audit readiness. And the uniqueness here is the LLM and RAG system converting your organizational documents into live policy controls and interactive communication with that. And you generate your reports. And as I said, there's a lot of work from the origin and still ongoing with the regulators and auditors. So when you did the policy pack, if you're high-risk AI, you are required to do AI testing. It's not a testing, you need to meet the benchmarks. So we do predictive. We do testing for predictive, generative, and agentic AI. We test for fairness, robustness, privacy, and security. So this is your audit green light to release your AI systems. And how we differs from the market is that we have something we call context elasticity. That means our system adapts to whatever data you put in there. It could be a lot, a little. And then we have robust testing with domain-specific attacks, all chasing vulnerabilities. And also the synthetic and reality-grounded persona with memories that will keep it the realism and the safety really high. Then we also have adaptive optimization. So once you detected something faulty, it stops. So it will save you time and money. And also this is, what do you call it when you say we have adaptability?
Adaptive.
Yeah, but no. The cursor adaptability. So you want to talk. Do you want to just talk about that?
So our latest release have a cursor plugin. So for your engineer who's using coding copilot like cursor, you can test and scan for compliance as you're developing.
Yeah, we're very proud of that. So coming to when you've done the testing, you will get tailored recommendations and insights to close the policy gaps. And the beauty with this is it's not only when it comes to be audit ready to the AI Act, for 2001, to NIST, you really need your entire organization. It's not only up to the tech team. It is up to the tech team and the compliance team to translate into the reportable metrics, right? And also your marketing team. Do you communicate something about, for example, the explainability requirements you're not supposed to or not enough? So we spent, since 2016, our multidisciplinary research started at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm. It's very cold there too. And we have built an IP that we curated for 9 years. And it is a methodology that can create over 500 billion unique insights and recommendations. And the problem, there are uncertainties and gray zones within the AI Act. So we can constantly stay up to date because we have a research institute with researchers focused on the AI Act. For example, we have one researcher now specializing on how to interpret human in the loop. I mean, there's so many still uncertainties that we stay ahead of. So the end-to-end governance platform, as I said, is an intuitive user journey for the compliance and business and tech team. And the beauty here is that it's risks and oversight of AI. It's oversight and control of AI risk from a non-tech perspective to the boards, to the executive teams, and to the notifying bodies. And the key differentiation here is that we have both qualitative and quantitative assessment to do the mitigations, to close the policy gaps, and we're always having human in the loop. So all the requirements that you need to fulfill the EU AI Act, Isabel, I'm curious if you have any clients asking for AI Act. We see it coming just around the corner. We have the capabilities such as the testing and the risk management, but also the capabilities, risk monitoring, etc. So we also are very proud that there's Canadians and Europeans that built this. We talked about sovereignty, and this is where we built this from the start with EU AI Act in the DNA, with these values at the core. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through a use case. This is on the platform. You want to select a policy. This is an HR chatbot, and the selected policy is the EU AI Act and NIST. This is pretty common, actually, that you want to have NIST and the EU AI Act. NIST is something you have to globally, is that a golden standard, and I think EU Act is going to be the golden standard. But anyway, you select the policy, you assign responders that has the assignment to ask questions that are non-quantitative related. So for example, the business team, the compliance team. And then you upload the documentation. We have LLM answer gen for that. And then you run the technical test. In this case, it is fairness, privacy robustness, and security, all of them. Now, based on both the qualitative and quantitative results, you get recommendations on how to address the gaps. You get the scoring, you get the life cycle analysis that is required from the EU AI Act. And you can see how you go from being an immature AI maturity governance, you govern it in an immature way to strengthening your score. On the left side, this is an audit-ready report going to the notifying body EU AI Act, and on the right side, we see that this is for governance, for executive teams and boards. As you have with any, boards wants key risk insights, right? So they want a heat map of understanding what to do and when they can release their AI products. The team is a very experienced team, I would say. So Fionn, you spent years in enterprise software. You were the tech lead when you were sold to, I love this, promoting you like this, because I never get to do this in a formal way, but you were amazing, and you were the tech lead of a company that was sold to Oracle, and now you're leading also the tech team in Canada, where Samantha is the Chief Technical Officer. She spent years on IBM. And we have David Van Rooyen, who is our CEO. He's been teaching ethics and advanced math at Cornell and Berkeley. He sold his company to Safety Net, and that was also an AI governance company. Eric Klimstra is our Chief Revenue Officer. From BlackBerry also sold a company called Magnet. And also the beauty is that we're the gap between compliance and tech. So our policy team also are mixed with a lot of skill sets in tech and AI. And also Stefan Larsson, who's heading our social legal research team and also focusing on the EU AI Act. So we have the closeness to Brussels, as you can think of. And the companies we work with are companies that range from the auditing firms to the consultancy firms that stand without software tools, thinking they can run Excel sheets from the tech to the compliance team. So they realize they need a software support for this. We work with Royal Bank of Canada, Amica, a lot of financial institutions, but also retail and infrastructure. So I want to summarize by saying that we help you. We are your reliable fast track for AI Act governance and beyond, and we take you all the way to scale trusted and legal AI. Thank you so much.